Welcome everyone to the fourth session of the New South Wales Volleyball Referees Association online training session being held on Monday and Thursdays during August 2025. The purpose of this series is to be able to focus on refereeing topics and techniques that we believe would benefit referees of all levels, whether those just starting out to those preparing for AYVC or other national events. We've heard from Kate Suckling on player management. I presented on officiating teamwork, and most recently on Monday, we heard from Amanda Tong on protocol preparation. Today, we're going to hear from Rachel Seo on preparation tips and tricks. Rachel is a level 3 referee and is serving as the Secretary of New South Wales VRA. Rachel is currently on maternity leave from the New South Wales Cancer Institute after recently giving birth to a charming boy that you just heard in the background. Although you wouldn't really know it, as she has hardly missed a beat and kept up with her officiating, including refereeing at AJVC in Adelaide, and is as active as ever with all matters to do with the association, including weekly SVL rostering and also presenting tonight. So thank you, Rachel. Over to you.
No worries. Thanks, Sam, for the intro. Let me just share my slides. This one. All right. Can everyone see that? I'm going to take silence as a yes.
Yep, we can.
Yep, awesome. Alrighty, so hi everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. Following on from Amanda's great presentation on Monday about perfecting protocol, today I'll be going over preparation tips and tricks. So this isn't exhaustive, but hopefully you'll learn a new thing or two that you can incorporate into your pre-game warm-up. I'm really sorry about my baby crying in the background. So many of us have been there, the fifth set of a tight gold medal match. So you didn't get much sleep the night before, and you didn't have time to have breakfast in the morning because you're running late. So by this fifth set, you're pretty drained. And it's been a heated game so far, and you've made a couple of iffy calls where you questioned your knowledge of the rules. So on top of feeling the pressure of this game, you're also feeling pretty stressed and a little rattled. And then it happens. It's match point, and a series of fast plays occurs at the net. And then both teams are yelling, the coaches are yelling, the crowd is yelling, and everyone is looking at you. And they're probably all hoping that you'll award the point to their team. After much discussion with the second referee, and also having the referee delegate involved, you blow the whistle to signal the last point of the match. Of course, there's another uproar from the losing team before they eventually accept defeat. The game is over, but it ended on a sour note. One team probably has you on the top of their hit list, and your confidence in your refereeing skills has dwindled. But let's rewind. So if you were to go back to a couple of weeks before this match, what could you have done differently to officiate this match with confidence the whole way through and end the game on a good note? The answer is, of course, good preparation. So today, I'm going to go through some tips and tricks that have helped me prepare for a match or a competition. And I'm going to break these down into physical, mental, and emotional preparation, share some tips and tricks, give you some homework maybe, and then summarize what we've discussed today. I recently went to AJVC with Amanda, so I'll tell you how we prepared for that too. So this is one of my favorite quotes, and I like to apply this to everything in life. So it's hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So this way, I'm always adequately equipped to handle whatever comes my way. Alrighty, so let's go through the easy one first, and that's physical preparation. So like in this picture, people are starting to warm up to probably do some more intense exercise. So question to everyone, and feel free to unmute yourselves and share your thoughts. What are some things that you can do to physically be in a good shape to officiate a game? Anyone?
Go to the gym regularly.
Yep, you can keep your actual physique. Yeah, you can keep fit and healthy.
Yeah, I agree with Kim there. Lots of sleep.
Yeah.
Yep, lots
Definitely.
of sleep. That's a good one.
Oh.
Anything else while I close the door? Oh, it's already closed. Okay. He's just back there. Anything else?
This might be weird, seeing as though I'm not that old yet, but literally stretching before a game because my knees hurt on the stand.
Yep, that's an important one. I also like to stretch during the game on the stand. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's not just the knees too. I find the calves, stretching the calf muscles.
Yeah, definitely. David has written, avoiding alcohol the night before if I'll be refereeing the next day. Yep, that's a good one. Cool. So I'll just share a few things that I had. So I think we've knocked down half of these. So some ways we can physically prepare, obviously good sleep, and keeping fit and healthy. This is so fake. Who smiles whilst doing this exercise? Yep, having a good breakfast and also just keeping fed throughout the day, yourself fed throughout the day, especially if you have a very long day ahead of you. Going to the toilet before warm up, well before warm up. Yeah, you never know if your game is going to be a quick 3 setter or like the longest 5 setter of your life. So you need to be prepared. You don't want to be standing on the stand, busting to go to the loo and having your focus on there and not being able to focus on the game. Yeah. I like to also pack my bag the night before so that I don't forget anything while rushing out in the morning. I'm not a morning person, so I'll definitely forget something. I also like to hang my referee uniform up so that it's ready to go when I get changed in the morning. Keep yourself hydrated throughout the day, especially if you have a long day of officiating like you will at AYVC. At AJVC, sometimes we're at the venue from like 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. So you really need to make sure you prepare well for those long days. And then, of course, being on time, which means being physically present at the venue, ready to do what you need to do. Yeah. So these might seem really obvious, but I'm sure we've all had times where we've not done one or more of these things and it's affected our refereeing. There was one time I forgot to take a whistle because I didn't pack my bag the night before. Yes, that's right. As a referee, if nothing else, you should bring a whistle. But I forgot that one thing. And now I've learned from that, and I carry a whistle around in every one of my bags, even my baby's nappy change bag. Yeah. Can't ever be too prepared, eh? The next one is mental preparation. So again, feel free to unmute or write in the chat. So what are some ways that we can prepare mentally for a match or a competition?
I always imagine what I'll be doing or what I should be doing during the protocol. Just like imagining it.
So yeah, playing that once through before. Yeah, that's cool. It's a good one. Anyone else?
Sticking through my usual rituals, so like having a coffee not right before, but like enough time before.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this comes under mental, but leading up to a tournament or before a big game, I actually read through the guidelines and the rules, just brushing up on ones that may or may not come up in a game.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah, definitely comes under mental. It's really good. Anyone else? Someone's written. Sorry, Maggie, I didn't see your thing now until now. Dressing appropriately for the weather. Oh yeah. Yeah, so that was physical. And David's just written reading the tournament regulations. Yes, very important, especially if it's a unique format. So, yeah, good. Anyone else? No. Cool.
Yeah, and I got one more.
Mhm.
I have little acronyms for improper requests, delays, red and yellow cards, and I always go over those little acronyms so that if I have to issue cards, I know what process to follow. If if something happens, is it a delay or is it an improper request? I have these little acronyms that I brush over in my head so that I can make a quick decision and a correct decision based on what I've, I suppose, learnt over a period of time. But these little acronyms help.
Ah, okay, cool. What are the acronyms, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay. First one for improper request is RENS, WRENSS. The RENS is if they request a timeout or substitution before the whistle or after the referee's indicated. After they've exhausted all their timeouts or substitutions is E. N is by non-authorised player. That doesn't really happen, or they've requested a second substitution. So WRENSS. The other one is roped. So I always believe, if someone's going to get a card, we give them enough rope to hang themselves. So red. Rude, offensive, aggressive, penalty, expulsion, disqualification. And the other one is, because I come from an agricultural area, is the DPI digs roses. DPI stands for delay or prolonging an interruption. Digs is delay of game. So I just put INS in there. And irises is improper request, second improper request or illegal substitution.
Oh, wow. That's great. That's really good that you have something that really works for you. And that's a really,
Yeah, and thanks for putting me on the spot there, by the way.
sorry, but that was great. People are applauding you. So Kim's just said that sometimes I like to have a look at the tournament results to try and anticipate the standard of both teams and the importance of the result of the upcoming games. So is it the team that's coming first versus the team that's coming sixth? Is it fourth versus fifth? Is it second versus third? So it's really important as well. Cool. I think pretty everyone's knocked off what I've written. So yes, obviously, the most important one is read the FIVB rules, the guidelines, and the casebook, especially the rules that you're unsure about. And if you need to, practice your signals. For the very first AJVC that I went to, I practiced the signals in front of my mirror for a week because somebody told me that my awarding the point signal was crooked. My arm was crooked, and so I got really self-conscious and I practiced for a week. And I also read the FIVB rules in its entirety, and I highlighted anything that I was unsure about so that I could ask Sam at our next training session way back when I used to play and Sam was my coach. And if you're anything like me, I hate reading. And the rulebook in itself is 89 pages. That's like 88 pages too long. So this is what I did to get through reading this. So I set myself a deadline, like 3 or 4 weeks before AJVC started. And then I divided the rulebook into small, manageable chunks that I could read over, 2 or 3 days. That's how I got through it. But whatever works for you. So you can see someone has a little prize for themselves when they read something. And then, as many of you mentioned, read the regulations of the competition that you're going to. So a lot of us, well, everyone in New South Wales, will be very familiar with the SVL rules because we play it every week. But there are a number of differences between the SVL rules and the VA Indoor Handbook. So Amanda and I, to prepare for AJVC, we read these rules and then we talked about it whenever we saw each other at SVL and also on the plane on the way there. And then we reread the regulations the night before the start of the comp. And also when you get there, you'll meet the rest of your team, the other referees from the other states, and you get to have a briefing session. So that's a good chance to also talk about any rules that you're unsure about as well. And then know what works for you. So Amanda mentioned coffee earlier. So for a lot of people, a coffee gets your brain perked up and ready to tackle the world. Or maybe you want to do a meditation session at the start of the day. Or is it something like fresh socks like me? So for me, when I know that I have a really long day of refereeing, like at AYBC or AJBC, I like to change into fresh socks sometime in the middle of the day or before the evening games. And for me, that just like putting on a fresh pair of socks helps me feel mentally refreshed. I don't know why, but it works. Yeah. So, yeah, again, whatever works for you. Right. Alrighty. So the next part is emotional preparation. So this is probably something less talked about, but it has been brought up into the foreground in recent times, and it was certainly discussed during the referee briefing meeting that we had at AJBC this year. So as Keith mentioned last week in his presentation, we do participate in a sport that's very emotional. So as referees, it's also very crucial for us that we are emotionally prepared. So when we are feeling good emotionally, we tend to be calm, we make rational decisions, we're very confident in ourselves and also the decisions that we've made. We're able to support others well, especially our own duty team, and we manage the overall game well. And so all participants are very happy. So when officiating, of course, we feel great emotionally until something blows up. So what happens when we are not feeling good emotionally? We start to do things like, we feel, under pressure, we get stressed and we feel hot. Sometimes your face goes red. I know, whatever, right? My poker face is already bad, but even that crumbles when I start to feel stressed during a game. I make irrational decisions. Your confidence can start to plummet, and then you begin to doubt yourself, and then you can't manage the game well. And then as a result of that, participants may not be happy. Yeah. So during a game, what are some things that make us go from this green zone into the red zone? And again, feel free to unmute and answer.
I think the most obvious one is when you've made a call that you're pretty sure you've got wrong, and then you start to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's good when you're dwelling on it for too long.
Mm.
So that takes away the focus on the next rallies. Yep, that's a good one. What
Maybe sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
No,
It's like
go on.
if I made a call, there are some times where the captains or the entire team just come up and complain to me because they thought, or it's either they thought or they did see something different to what I saw, and that kind of just makes me wonder, like, whether I made a bad decision and stuff, and that kind of just puts me in this less confident state and kind of affects me a little bit
Yeah.
afterwards. Yeah.
It affects everyone. Yeah, when a team or maybe even both teams just like blow up. Yeah, of course you get rattled. Yeah. Cool. So
And sometimes, like, when the duty team doesn't really help you, like, even though you briefed with them and you told them your expectations, and if they don't look like they're into the game, like from the start, then they kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm a little lost, a bit annoyed, and yeah, sometimes that did affect my game.
yeah, definitely when you have a duty team that's maybe not as competent as you'd like or hope, or someone who or people who are just not interested, like linesmen on their phones, scorers not really keeping track well. How many times or how many games have we seen where scorers don't really pay attention, and then like 5-6 points later they're like, oh wait, that team's out of rotation, that's the wrong server, and then that team gets really angry at you and at the scorer for not keeping track. Yeah, and then they have to lose all the 5-6 points that they won and things like that. Yeah, definitely.
David put a good one in the chat.
Yeah. Sorry.
I can read it if you want.
David. Oh, sorry. Just reading the other ones. Letting emotions from coaches or players take you for a ride. Yes, take you for a fun ride. Yes, that's a good one because again, yes, like volleyball is a very emotional game. So and we are also humans. We get emotional too. So it's really hard not to feel their emotions. Yeah, that's a good one. Cool. Then, what are some things? So if we get stuck in this red zone, what are some things that we can do to get us back into the green zone? Anyone?
So a technique that I do, especially when it's a very close match and you can cut the tension with a butter knife. So as I'm doing my scan before authorizing the next serve, I would actually take a couple of deep breaths. And then on the final one, your lungs is already filled with air ready to be blown into the whistle. So you know that, yep, I'm calm. And then I'm blowing the whistle and authorizing the serve.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's a great one.
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I also do that. Like, I just take really big, deep breaths before I put the whistle back in my mouth. Just scan everything, and then I feel like I do feel like I am back into the game after that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Deep breaths is a great one, and it's a very important one. Ian said, "Be a goldfish." Yep, that's good. So just forget about what happened in that last rally and just focus on doing a better job in the next rally. Yep.
Yeah. That happened to me where I reckon I made 3 errors in a game and the team still won. And I ran over to fill up my water bottle in between games and I ran into the captain of that team who was about 21, 22. This is when I was first starting out at a high level. And I apologised for making 3 mistakes. And he said to me, "You're reffing well over 100 points a game. If you're only making 3 errors, you're having a good game." And that really was what I needed at that point. But it's something I've always kept in the back of my mind is that we're not perfect. You try and minimise the errors. I think I've got it down to maybe 1 a game. I don't know. But yeah, it's just we're not perfect. Basically, get over yourself and keep moving. That's what I tell myself. It's only at 1 point. They've still got to lose 24 others to lose this set.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's great, and that's very nice of the captain to say that to you.
Yeah, he's lovely.
Yeah. So David has also written in the chat. So as for playing, find a mental reset technique that is quick and effective. He also said that he test blows his whistle like a woodwind instrument player might do between sections. I don't know what woodwind instrument players do, but okay, test blowing. Maggie said if there's a behavioral thing going on with players, coaches, spectators, then deal with the situation rather than letting it continue or escalate. If that's the reason that you're not feeling great emotionally, that's a very important one, and that's what Keith talked about in his presentation. So stamp down on that early on rather than let it escalate and then let it get really out of hand. Yeah, that's a good one, Maggie. David said it means it doesn't make a sound. Oh, okay. Cool. So I think, again, everyone got most of what I've written here. Take deep breaths. That's a very important one. With taking deep breaths, some people have a specific technique, and you can, the number of seconds doesn't really matter so much, just whatever you're comfortable with doing. But a lot of people have like a 5-3-5 technique. So that's 5 seconds of breathing in through your nose, 3 seconds of holding that breath, and then another 5 seconds of letting that breath out through your mouth. Somebody mentioned that doing the scan, I think it was Chris. So what I like to do is I do my scan of the court a little bit slower before authorizing the next serve when I'm stressed or when I need to calm down. So what I mean by that is just before I authorize a serve, I always do a quick scan of the court, and I start from the lines judge of the receiving team side, and then the receiving team, the scorers, the attacking team, the lines judge of the attacking team side, the server, and then the final person I look at is the second referee, just in case they're about to blow for a sub or a timeout. And then if not, then I stick my arm out to authorize the serve. Yeah. So when I'm feeling very under pressure and I need to calm down, I just do that scan a tad bit slower. I'm not saying take an eternity to do it, but just a tiny bit slower to get you back on track. As people mentioned earlier, do some quick stretches on the stand, especially if you're standing still all day, you get really stiff and your muscles start to ache. During intervals and timeouts, after you quickly check the court, of course, change your focus for a few seconds. So, for example, you can maybe watch a game that's happening on another court, watch the crowd, focus on your breathing. Somebody told me this a few years ago, and it's something that they do, and they do a mental body scan from head to toe. And so as they mentally scan themselves from head down, it reminds them to just let go of any tension that they might be holding in their body. So for example, when I do this, I always find that my shoulders are really tensed up when I'm stressed. So when I do my body scan, I'm always dropping my shoulders. Okay. And then find a centering object. A centering object is something that reminds you or helps you to stay calm and take deep breaths. So for example, Kim, who's joined us today, she has a little flower drawn on her sanction cards case. So whenever she looks at that flower, it kind of just reminds her to take deep breaths, stay calm, stay focused, and move on. Yeah, so, again, whatever works for you, make sure you employ that. Another way that we can be emotionally prepared for these unexpected moments where we start to feel really stressed is by practicing something called emotional regulation. So emotionally regulated people have the ability to understand, experience, and manage their own emotions in a healthy and appropriate way. And they also have the ability to understand the emotions that others are feeling, which is really crucial for us as referees. We should know or understand how the players and the coaches and the crowd would be feeling. Okay. So how can we practice regulating our emotions? So the first step is to name the emotion. So for example, stress. Okay. And then validate the emotion. So you say to yourself, I am feeling very stressed, or I'm feeling a little stressed. Okay. So you're acknowledging that you're actually feeling that emotion. And you identify the triggers. So I'm feeling a little stressed because this team has just blown up at me for an iffy call that I made. Yeah. And then talk through the emotions in a positive and constructive way. So when you're up on the stand, this just sometimes means talking to yourself and giving yourself a bit of a pep talk. I mean, I do it all the time. And like Ian said, I always dwell, and I think a lot of people do this too. I always dwell on that mistake I made, like, oh crap, that was such a bad call. And then that takes my focus away from the next rally. And that's really bad because then I start to make all these other errors. So instead of dwelling, I just tell myself, okay, that was a pretty bad call, but let's let it go so I can focus on making my next call a good one. And then off the stand, as Sam talked about in his presentation, it's very much operation teamwork when we go to officiate a game or go to a competition. Yeah, so we can talk with other referees about what happened and get their feedback and opinion. So thankfully at AYVC, AJVC, SVL, all the acronyms, we have a good cohort of referees who you can talk to about your match after the game. And so I really encourage you to do this. Not only will you relieve your stress, but you'll also learn a lot from them. And the next thing, this says journaling, but we like to call it self-reflection. So if you speak to any senior referee, you'll find that they write down some notes about their games to keep a record of what they did well, what they didn't do so well, how they felt before and during the game, and then how they can do things better next time. So I don't know if Alan's probably not here, but Alan Whitby, who he has a notebook as part of his referee kit. And anytime an unusual situation occurs in his games, no matter if he's the referee or if he's a player, he writes it down to either look up the rules later or to ask someone about it. And then he reads those rules, or he reads those notes before his next game so that he's mentally better prepared. And then, as someone mentioned before, of course, a good night's sleep does wonders. So some homework from now until your next game is to practice emotional regulation in your daily life by using these as a guide. I've just got the basics of emotional regulation down here, but if you Google it, you can find loads of resources. So I'm just checking. Okay, cool. To summarize the last, 30 or so minutes that felt like eternity, we need to be prepared physically, mentally, and emotionally to officiate a game to the best of our ability. And as this diagram suggests, your physical, mental, and emotional state all affect each other. So make sure you prepare yourself in all these ways for your next game. And some other tips and tricks. So know what the competition is about and what's at stake. Yeah. So for example, is it a friendly game or social game? Is it a lower grade school match where you're just trying to encourage people to continue liking the sport? Is it a high level game such as, the SVL games, LAVC, AJVC, AVSL, and further? Is it a tough competition with monetary rewards? Is it a medal match? So taking these little extra details into account will help you better prepare for your game. Oops. Some other things that people like to do, they watch some games to familiarize yourself with fast-paced actions and see how other referees manage these games. VNL, a lot of people like to watch VNL. Record yourself and give yourself some feedback. So that's one that beach referee Katrina Tweedy taught me. So that's been a good one. And even if you don't record yourself, like these days, everyone records a game, right? So you can always find a video somewhere. Always talk to your chief referee, your referee delegate, or your referee coach, whatever they call it, to ask if they can watch some of your game and give you feedback. And also let them know what your goals are for officiating. So for example, you can tell them, I really want to practice my second refereeing because that's my weak spot. And I really want to make sure I do this and this and this correctly. Can you please watch my next game? Simple as that. Yeah. So would anyone like to share any other tips that they use to help them prepare for a game? So whether it be physically, mentally, emotionally, or a combination of these? Any international referees want to tell us what they do before an international match?
Well, I'll kick off something. For me, I just, like you said, keep notes of the prior games. So if I'm doing a first referee next or a second, I'll look at my last few match notes of what happened, how I felt, if it was a good performance, what to repeat, if it was a bad performance or things that didn't go well, how can I avoid that or mitigate that next time. I try not to read too much on the day of the match or just prior because I don't want to fill my head with stuff. I would rather have a clear mind when I approach a game. And then, I try to go somewhere quiet for like the 10 or 20 minutes before a match. So it's, clear and calm. And then...
Oh, thanks, Sam. I believe David had his hand raised next.
One of the things I wanted to share was a bit of a humorous one that says, once is an incident, twice is a hobby. To say that when you're thinking about mistakes, making a mistake once is a great learning opportunity. And as Ian and others have said, it's probably immaterial to the overall game and the result. But it's when you make the same mistake several times in a match or between matches, that's the point at which it becomes a problem. So a mistake on its own is not an issue. It's a learning opportunity. And so I try to offer myself a little bit of self-compassion to say, if I make a mistake, that's an opportunity to learn and do better next time, not a moment to beat myself up about and then lose control of myself in the middle of a game.
Well,
The other thing other thing I found that's quite useful is to go into a game with an intent. Something simple, not particularly complicated and not very pressured, but it might be, in this game, I'm going to focus a little bit more on my leaning, watching the attack side. Or I'm going to focus on lingering slightly longer on the net rather than shifting my gaze too quickly. Something really simple to come back to if I'm feeling like I'm spiraling or I'm getting flustered, to say, okay, what was the one thing I wanted to do today that I said would be a success for this game? To kind of reground.
Oh, that's a great one. Thanks, David. Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
Hi there. I'll probably cover off two things. One, preparation for a game. Before an international event, I tend to go and read the rule book, probably the critical ones, to refresh ourselves around the most common things that happen, right? That people argue about, which is faults at the net, overhand finger pass from a libero in the front zone, definition of attack hit, crossing space, etc. But also, more importantly, any rule changes. So far, I think, this year, of course, there's a big rule change that went through. So therefore, getting into the groove of how to work out positional faults and all that kind of stuff as well, that you got to keep in mind as well. I think the stuff that Sam talked about, going to a quiet place and just to calm oneself down. I suppose for myself, I tend to work into a rhythm. One of the things that I was advised by Carla at my first event with a challenge video system was to take everything really slowly. So basically, what you feel like when you blow the whistle to start, and then end of a rally, and then to signal and who won the point, a lot of it is actually, you can actually run it like as if you're in slow motion in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality is what people see is actually a really good tempo as well. I jumped in the middle of when you're talking about how to manage from the red zone to the green zone.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tricks that I did, and I kind of picked it up when I did an event in National Juniors a couple of decades ago now, when it was an under 17s match. It was bottom two teams playing it off for 10th space, and they were pretty close, but they kept on making a lot of positional faults, rotational faults, basically everything you can think of. It just felt a little bit out of rhythm. So the tricks that I used is I actually went into a commentary mode. So in my mind, I go, all right, all the players ready, you do the scan, right? Lines, in my mind, I'm saying lines person ready, team ready, second referee ready, teams ready, serve, ball, serve, dig, set, spike, yep, clean, don't reach. And I go through a bit of that commentary, and that helps calm myself down, but also get me into the tempo of the game as well. And of course, it makes it a little bit interesting, right? So when you sort of say dig, set, dig, set, don't reach. And if the player reaches before the ball is set, you're already in it. So it really helps you get into that game momentum a little bit better, but also it feels like you're actually involved in the game as well. So those are my two tips for this in my hoodie.
Great. Thanks, Aaron. Those are really good ones as well. Just reading off the chat here, so Daniel said that he asks an expert or someone that he can trust in volleyball about certain scenarios. That's a good one. I do that too. I'm sure everyone does. And then Ian's also written, I always refresh my understanding of the rules around reaching so that I can use the correct language when explaining it to players. That's a really good one. So using the correct terminology to players already lets them know, this ref knows their stuff. Yeah, so that's a really good one. Thanks, Ian. Anyone else? I think Amanda also has goals. I remember when we were going to AJVC, she's like, okay, this comp, I want to call this, and this. So she wanted to call like the libero doing an overhand pass in the front zone. And she wanted to, there were, I think, two other things that she wanted to, so some more unusual things. And she got, I think, all three of them.
I did. It was like a bingo card. Not that I was looking for the faults, but if they did occur, I was very, very on the ball with them.
Yeah, good.
I was about to say bingo too.
Yeah. Sorry, I've lost where we. Oh yeah, here. So anyone have any questions? If
I don't have a question, right? But I was just going to follow off of that bingo card thing. I think my mental preparation is that officiating for me was always fun, and so make it fun for yourself, or whatever your goal is. Yeah, do that for yourself. So officiating has always been fun for me. So when I go into competitions and tournaments and whatnot, oh, sorry, someone's calling me.
good, that's a good one. Thanks, Amanda. Yeah,
Make it fun.
make it
There
fun.
we go.
Yeah. If nobody has anything else to say, well, thanks so much for taking the time tonight to come along. I hope you got something out of it. And if you ever see me around, please come say hi and have a chat. Now, I look really mean, but I'm not that mean. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you, Rachel. Great presentation.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel.
See you.
Thank you.